being an entrepreneur and owning my own business before I came into the corporate industries definitely taught me that. Making an impact is consistency, deliver on your promise, deliver what you say you're going to do.
They feel like they own the solution too, and they feel heard. Extending that ownership to others. What would you say to someone coming into our industry and how they can really own their space?
Don't be afraid to put your hand up for something that you know you have absolutely no experience in.
Today we're talking about one of Structure Tone's core behaviors, own it. For us, own it is about an inner confidence and owning your space, being accountable, and really acting with integrity. Today, we're joined by Claire Odgers, who is a leader within corporate services in the London market. Claire, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for including me.
I think it's fair to say you've had quite an unconventional route into the real estate industry. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
In 1987, when I graduated from university, the only vocation that I had in mind was to teach. And over time and circumstances, I took some very, very interesting turns in my career. And very early on after teaching, being married to a teacher, I realized financially we needed some help, so gave up teaching and went into waitressing full-time, seen as a backward step, but sometimes in life one has to do what one needs to do. We were a young family. What that did is then took me into the hospitality industries. I progressed into that franchise and eventually had my own restaurant for a number of years, which was really good fun. After that, moving into the corporate industry 4 years after being in the restaurant trade for that time, I did find it an easy transition, sort of easy work. People would say to me, look, how can you work all these hours? You're always up and about. I was like, no, I'm good. After you run a restaurant and work those hours, it's an easy trade. And so later, as I was in my late 30s, when I started my first corporate career at EY in Johannesburg, and I was hired to manage the receptionists.
Oh, wow.
Started grassroots. So my corporate services career has been one from working right from the bottom up and experiencing the trenches. Moving into that industry, I was highly qualified with my degree in education, but I didn't really mind. I was like, give me a chance. Said to EY, don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Give me a chance. And they were really, really very good to me. Great opportunity to foster what I learned at teaching. And that got me into the corporate industry and then into facilities management. I left EY as the regional head of facilities management about 6 years later. But then was transferred into manage Europe and Americas for Standard Chartered Bank. And here I am now loving the London market and managing Europe as well.
What are those skills that you brought from education, hospitality into your facilities role?
From an education perspective, I very quickly realized moving into corporate and facilities management and workplace is that essentially everybody wants to take care of themselves. Everyone has that inner child. I was a junior school teacher, and understanding any conversation I had or any meeting I had, the perspective of the individual that I was talking to or listening to was very important. And that communication is important. That from a teaching perspective, and also just managing chaos. I think teaching is really, particularly 9-year-olds is some chaos, and I loved that chaos. But just to manage all those working parts, even as a waitress, the sense of service. And also just managing customer experience at that very basic level. One key learning as well for me was owning my own restaurant. I do, and now we've got a great project with Structure Tone at the moment, and we've got massive budgets, and but as still my instinct is to still manage any project or anytime I have to spend any money, like it's my own.
Yes.
And that's, I cringe when someone says, oh, well, it's only $20,000 or it's only £100,000 or I still cringe. We're around, this is, we're managing money. We should be managing budgets, taking care like it's our own business.
Real accountability.
Yeah. Owning it.
Yeah. Love
It's
that.
It's not someone else's, it's not somebody else. It's just, the company can afford it. And I'm very proud of delivering on time, in budget or under budget. That's something, being an entrepreneur and owning my own business before I came into the corporate industries definitely taught me that.
You spoke about, managing lots of different people within hospitality, lots of different characters, personalities. Now you've got a very big group of stakeholders that you work with, contractors, multidisciplinary teams. How would you describe your leadership style?
It is sometimes a circus. There are many, many players in it. And I had to put my ego away. Taking accountability for all of these moving parts doesn't mean you always get all the credit. And that's fine. It's just managing and ensuring that all these characters and personalities that you have, that they're heard, but also just keeping an eye on the prize. The key is not to be the loudest voice in the room, don't have to be the one that does all the speaking, but it's really understanding and making sure that each character, each personality is geared and guided to that cause. We need to deliver this. So you get your construction contractor wants more time and more money, and then you got to say, okay, let's think about this. And your stakeholder wants to get into the building earlier than everyone else. It's managing that expectation and managing the expectation so that the team can deliver what they need to do. My focus is always to be the last to speak. It's a Nelson Mandela thing, by the way. And because then you've heard everyone, and you know what they think, and then you can sort of wrap up. So that's my style in a meeting or in an engagement, particularly a difficult one.
That sort of quiet confidence and acting with empathy, and I guess considering people's experience, I think is quite unique to the real estate industry. As you say, there are often very loud voices in the room. Do you think that's inherently who you are, or is it an approach you've consciously crafted over time?
I've learned it probably the hard way. So my first engagement at EY, I knocked my head many times, I think, and learned then. And I had the COO at the time was an incredible mentor for me. And he taught me, I think, just spending time with him and understanding how he operated, I realized it's not, you don't have to be that noisiest person or the loudest. So I did learn it over time. And what came with experience is also the sort of the comfort with myself and the confidence that I have the experience, I have the knowledge. We'll get there, as opposed to sort of proving it, every time in a room. I don't have to prove to everyone I'm not necessarily the smartest in the room. I shouldn't be the smartest in the room. I'm in the wrong room then.
Yeah, there's almost like a relief to that, to just trust
let all the
your
experts
gut,
get on it.
be confident in your ability. And it's also so much more authentic than sort of grandstanding and being performative, because we so often feel we have to present as this very vocal, very confident voice in a room, and you can be just as effective a leader with a slightly sort of softer approach to it.
I actually love that idea that I'm seen as, oh, this is sort of easy pickings. We'll convince her quite easily on, we need more money, or the project's not going so well, and then realize that I actually do, I've been listening, I've been watching, and I don't really give much away.
Yeah, and also caring about sort of the common purpose.
Yeah.
If you use that as your North Star, and I think that's another mark of really effective leaders is, you have to bring together lots of competing agendas, specifically in the context of workplace projects. But if you can be clear about defining what that common goal that everyone's working towards, that brings everyone back and really gets everyone pulling in the same direction. How do you do that with your teams? Like, how is it having to bring folks back to that common purpose frequently?
I do, and my teams always roll their eyes. I do, and contractors believe in getting together in a room together, meetings, engaging, formally, lots of time and opportunity to come together as a team. It is much more beneficial, particularly difficult conversations, when all the players are in the room, because then you see you're dealing with humans. This is not, so easy on a telecon or on a video to sort of have an opinion and throw it out there and then switch your camera off, and then that's that. So that personal touch, that constant engagement is very important to me, and I do believe it's something that has helped me deliver very difficult projects in trying circumstances or with multiple personalities, is get everyone together in the room. And that makes for much more sort of robust conversation, honest conversation, and a lot less adversarial. It just breaks down the barriers automatically just by being in the room, So that's very key for me.
Togetherness. I read something quite recently, a post by Adam Strudwick, actually, of Perkins and Will, and he spoke about togetherness as a concept. I know we talk a lot about collaboration, and it's one of those overused terms, collaboration. What does that mean? And instead, I think he reframed it as togetherness, and it's exactly that. It's just by being together is how you build those relationships. You touched on a mentor in a previous role at EY. I guess mentorship in general and inspiring young leaders is something I believe you're quite passionate about. What would you say to someone coming into our industry and how they can really own their space?
I would say just trust yourself, have confidence. Everybody else in the room, they also are making it up as they go along, kind of thing.
Everyone's got a bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and so that the inner trust in yourself, knowing that you're okay in that room. And I have a young team member now, and over the 3 years, it's been a pleasure to watch him speak up in a meeting, as opposed to after the meeting coming and saying, "Oh, Claire, I'm like, okay, I'm going to call you out on this next time." He's like, "What?" And it really is just just trust your space, trust that you're in there, but also ask questions in the room. The majority of individuals, and in our industry specifically, a lot of us came in, we sort of fell into what we do. We learned by people teaching us and helping, asking those questions of individuals. We naturally want to help people out, and so don't be afraid to speak up and to ask, and don't be afraid to put your hand up for something that you have absolutely no experience in, and the majority of my career shifts have been when I've put up my hand for something that I was completely unqualified for, but because nobody else wanted to do it, I raised my hands. I'll do that, and then I'll work it out, and that has stood me in very good stead across my career. What have you got to lose? No one else. Those difficult tasks. I did that with Barclays, and that shaped a significant part of my career around managing workspace and change, and then. And that does make a difference when you just say, yeah, I'll take that on, and then you work it out, and you'll find the clever people, and
How else do you learn about things that aren't potentially in your wheelhouse, but you come out the other side? What are some of the key learnings? So you've spoken about workplace and strategy and sort of shaping a workplace experience and strategy for an organization. From doing that, what are the sort of common themes that have come out for you, and do you think is going to be a key trend going into the future?
All of my roles have been around managing with EY and with Barclays Capital, Standard Chartered, was being part of a big change program.
Yeah.
And the key learning there was at EY, it was called Ernst & Young at the time, many years ago.
In the good old days.
Yeah, in the good old days. And our part of the role was to move the team from a very traditional office cellular space to open plan. And now This is 2003, so we're a long time ago. First, probably groundbreaking around desk sharing and no offices. The CEO didn't have an office, and he was on the ground floor by design. And that the big shift there was when you're part of a change program, change as much as you can then. Invoke as many sort of new workplace strategies. So desk sharing, centralized printing, book meeting rooms, no dustbins. I mean, this is like basic workplace. Change everything.
That's interesting.
Because there's so much going on that
Okay.
the individual just absorbs it all, rather than saying, well, let's move everyone in and then we'll teach them about booking meetings. That has worked so well for me across the experience and across all of these change everything. As much as you want to, do it then. Don't wait and say, oh, there's so much going on, let's see, because it's all so new that the individual, who is essentially a 9-year-old child in my mind, is up for it then. If it's all going to change and it's all part of an exciting adventure, do it then.
That's a very interesting sentiment, this idea of really intense periods of change rather than protracted feeling like, oh, another thing. Yeah. But it's I think an interesting learning for us to take into our own business is really like, let's get it done and transform in a really sort of intense short period of time rather than protracting it out. That's really interesting, because you're almost like doing a factory reset, right?
All of it. Do it all. I learned that by accident, with EY, just saw that. I moved traders over a number of my experiences. And when I joined a firm, it would be sort of this haphazard, random process where a team wants to move and there's no order. And until now, we've got this well-oiled machine where nobody questions the process. No one challenges why we're restructuring or restacking, and there's always something going on, because there is, the leadership of that team can see, okay, this team owns it. They've done the planning. Here's a document. Here's my email telling me I'm moving. This is when I'm moving. This is what I must do, reminding me, and then moving them. And then I come in the next day, and there's the email to say, congratulations, this is, click on this link, this is where you sit, and they're in. So that sense of order and control does allow you to just get on with the business when everybody around, or who is part of change or part of some process, can see that we're in facilities or corporate services, we've got this.
Yeah.
When I started, we used to move sort of 3 or 4, maybe a maximum of 10 traders on a weekend. Now we can do 200 because we have a process. If it goes wrong, then we've got a rollback strategy. We've done one. Only in my career had to roll back once.
Why was that?
There was a power issue, probably because all the technology team plugged everybody's PC on and switched them all at the same time. But we couldn't take that chance. Can't take the chance. You need to know that they can trade the next day. So we moved them back. And we did it again the next weekend, and we were fine.
As part of this sort of theme of owning it, I guess accountability is also about taking accountability when things don't go right. So you've spoken about this sort of incident. Have there been moments in your career that have been really challenging and you really sort of had to step up and take accountability and own those challenges?
There have been a few. One that comes to mind is when around projects and recommending to senior leadership a real estate strategy, which it's worked really hard on, and I knew was the right one. But through miscommunication and too many probably irons in the fire, there was when we pitched this to the senior leadership, it was very badly received. And honestly, more about communication failure and not making sure that every single individual in the room, which is what I like to do, is make sure when I'm pitching something, I've actually pre-pitched everything, So everyone you're speaking to is got the message before, and you've got their support. So sort of doing a bit of lobbying,
Yeah.
And I was in the room, and it did not go down well. It came down to the real estate strategist, which is me. and that I had to say, well, okay, it's on me. I didn't lose my job or anything, but it is quite tough to know that there's been other slips and it doesn't matter who in the background of it's well, I've spoken to this individual, and yes, everyone's sorted, and that wasn't the case. And I had to put my hand up, but I did learn the lesson, and I mean that's now 20 years into my experience, is make very sure that every individual understands the full message. There was a miscommunication on budget as opposed to location, and that, and I learned a very, very significant lesson very late, sort of in my life around. Everyone has the right intention, but if you're delivering a message, make sure you've done the pre-sell. Ironically, a year later, we're delivering exactly that strategy, which is a little mini victory. But you can't say that.
You can't say that.
But at that stage, it was the wrong time, the wrong message, and it's just critical around. Don't be complacent around, those messages. And I had to take it, and lots of heavy breathing and sort of running home and deep breaths in the bathroom. But you've got to do that,
But as a leader of a team, stepping up and taking that accountability is also quite inspiring. And I think it inspires a lot of respect with people. What are some of the other strategies that you use to really get the yes and keeping the yes?
Not really a strategy, but something when I know I'm in is the first one is small meetings to get buy-in. So one-on-ones with senior individuals. That, without a doubt, is an absolute must. If I'm pitching something with my manager, if I make it my manager's idea, he's in, so that's good. And then also with a senior leader or a stakeholder, if it's a difficult one, is to leave some space in the conversation and for them to start contributing to the strategy.
Yes.
So as soon as if you're talking about a real estate, as soon as they say, where would everyone, where would we put this? And what about, have you thought about us having a barista or a coffee? And they were like, okay, now you're part of the solution. Now you're ready. Bring them along the journey.
They feel like they own the solution too, and they feel heard. So again, it's about giving others, extending that ownership to others.
And then I'm like, okay, I got you.
I got you. I love that.
And then we move on to the next, and then we get everyone in the room. Now they've all, everyone's kind of agreed with us, and my manager, it's my manager's idea, and I'm there, and it's now we're all on the same journey. Then you pitch it to everyone together, and they've already agreed, and they've already got some investment. But that one-to-one, there is no value. There's no better, more important part of any kind of sell or strategy.
There's that sort of initial point with your senior leadership and stakeholders to get that buy-in. How do you keep that buy-in from people?
It's communication. It's taking them on the journey. Not a lot, not over, but making sure any conversational meetings you have are speaking their language. And if the CFO wants to know where's the budget, not the finishing on the wall, and that journey is to just say, I'm taking care of what's important to you, and always circling back on that.
Yeah, understanding your audience, so you can sort of tailor that conversation. It's really inspiring to see women in your position and sort of how you're navigating not just being a woman in the industry, but also being a mother in the industry. It's a unique experience. You kind of do need that support network at home to create that platform for you to do all of these things.
I couldn't have done it without David in the role that he played. And again, teaching. So school holidays, the three of them would pack up, and they're like, take sort of their toothbrush in the one pocket and maybe and a tent and go off camping, and I'd be like, bliss. And then I would work 18 hours a day. And
is that what it takes? Is long hours and like a total commitment to it? What it takes to create impact?
That's an interesting word, impact. So you're talking to a baby boomer, so of course it is. All those hours. I am. Okay. So so that would be the first instinct. Of course, it's hard work.
Yeah.
But I have had to sort of temper my, I don't think it's the answer. It may be at a point in time where you say, okay, to get over this hurdle, this is required of me now. I'm not going to retire doing it like this in this way. But in order to get, with Barcap, when we were moving everyone, there were 16 consecutive weekends of moves. I mean, at that stage, I was a senior manager, so I could have said, oh, well, I'll, good luck, everyone. I said, no, I'll be in. But I think more importantly on making an impact is consistency, deliver on your promise, deliver what you say you're going to do. If hard work is required to do that, then so be it. But if you can find a smarter way to do it, that's also a good thing. All companies, including ours, was debating sort of migrating from nothing to 2 to 3. They were in 5 days. I was in 5 days. And I made a decision around sort of demonstrating allegiance. I didn't have to. I'm managing a region. I can make phone calls. But I would come in every day because they were. And that's important as a senior leader as well, I feel, is to show that solidarity. You're not too big or too important.
When you think about really intense periods in your work life, those are all somehow always tied to periods of feeling really rewarded as well afterwards. And so it sort of takes those pressure cookers to make some magic.
Yes.
What's led to a moment where you just felt really rewarded in your job, where you had that sort of hell yeah moment that felt incredible?
Probably too many to mention.
Yeah.
Approval of real estate strategies and the big ones. And I've been fortunate, but in the last 5 years, I've had a significant number of sort of real estate strategies approved, and with big numbers attached, big budgets attached, and to sit in a room where the CFO or the global CFO sort of turns and says, Claire, you're the real estate strategist. Is this the right thing to do? And I say, yes, it is. Like, okay, like, wait, what? Having done all that work and with finance, with the project managers and the cost managers, and for it all to just wrap up into that one decision, that trust that you get, that is really like, okay, I've made it.
From your view, and your opinion on how a delivery partner can own it in their role within significant projects, what do you want to see from a delivery partner and from that broader sort of consultant team?
The word own it, I mean, owning it is important, and to see that commitment that this is important. It's not just another delivery. It's not just another project. Is important, and showing up is that not delivering remotely kind of thing. And when I say remotely, via email or not, and certainly as we've just got started on this relationship, Structure Tone is definitely showing up, so which is great to see. The other is to stay true to the outcome. I'm a realist around, and I've had conversations with contractors like, I know you're in it to make money. I'm not under no illusion, but and we're happy to spend money, but don't try and pull the wool over our eyes.
Yeah.
We've got lots of qualified people around. If it's if there's a shift in what needs to be brought to us as a client, just rather do it honestly. I think that's probably the South African in me. Don't cloud it under some kind of illusion, or just
straight
address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I have been known to be that person. Say, okay, let's just cut to the chase. Yeah, this is you need X for this and Y. This wasn't included in the bid, and now it's come up. Let's just let's be honest. I think that honesty is important, because generally it all comes out in the wash, and we figure it out. So that's important. That's authenticity, that you sold, or that we were sold in the bid. That needs to, it's a long haul. We've got 18 months together. nearly 2 years in total. So it needs to be authentic.
Claire, it was so lovely to sit
Oh, it was
down
great.
with you today.
It was lovely to be here. Thank you so much. I'm such a school teacher, like sometimes.
You are a school teacher.
I mean, like, look at like,
you must have been the really strict primary school
every day
teacher.
I print out my diary.
Oh my God, Claire, that is archaic.
Hey, it works.